The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, says services should prepare for flat budgets in coming years. The Center for Strategic and International Studies says thinking on the margins could help the Pentagon save money. Todd Harrison's director of the Aerospace Security Project, CSIS. Todd, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. What's this edge of the budget thinking mean to you, Todd?
Yeah, well, the idea is, as espoused in one of the papers we published on our website just this past week, the idea is you should be thinking in incremental choices, right? Because in reality, that's what you're faced with in this policy environment. It's not, a matter of, do I completely eliminate a leg of the triad or not? More often it's, okay, do I need 400 ICBMs, or would it be better to have 401 or 399? You need to be looking at the risk and the benefits on the margins of all of these decisions, because really that's what we're able to control.
You annually look at some of the bad ideas in defense. Is that one of your bad ideas this year, that looking to take big chops, big whacks of individual programs is a bad way to go about thinking about how to cut the defense budget?
Yes, it is. So, every year, I think we've talked about this on the show in past years, and this is our fourth year of doing it. We have a series that we publish in December called Bad Ideas in National Security, and it's where we basically invite people to write articles and take on these bad ideas that just keep coming back up in defense. Consider it an airing of grievances, if you will, in the spirit of Festivus. And so one of the bad ideas we published this year was by a friend of mine, Justin Joffrion, who's actually director of the Office of Labor and Economic Analysis for the Air Force, a newly created office. And this was his bad idea, failing to think on the margins of the defense budget. So I thought it was an excellent one, and that was one of the first articles that went up in our series this year.
Is the trend, now that you've been doing this for a number of years, is the trend to look each December at bad ideas that haven't gone away, or are people finding new bad ideas on an ongoing basis that they want to talk about?
Well, in 2020, there's been no shortage of bad ideas.
I don't know that 2020 is unique, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, and so, a lot of the bad ideas that people are coming to us with, they're things that have been around for a while. Bad ways of thinking about old problems that just keep coming up. And so not a lot of them are specific or new things that have come up this year. They tend to be things that have been lingering for a long time.
Do you get a sense that highlighting these as bad ideas over time has made an impact? That people say, you're right, that's really kind of a terrible idea. We shouldn't do that anymore, or we should at least do a lot less of it than we're doing?
Yeah, well, part of the whole idea of this series is to have a little fun, poke a little fun at these issues, because, normally what we do 11 months out of the year, we're looking at positive policy ideas, like good things that the government should be doing. And by taking a different perspective on it, looking at the bad ideas and calling out why they're bad, the hope is it'll draw people in because it's different, and it'll be a learning moment that we can help educate people on how to think about an issue, even if they don't agree that it's a bad idea. And we do start to see some impacts in helping shape or change the thinking of policymakers to better focus what they're trying to do and avoid some of the pitfalls that might, seem like common sense, but really, they're more complicated, once you start to unpack the issue and the consequences of certain decisions. So
back to the budget issue that we started with, because you honed your skills on defense budgeting, Todd. That strikes me, once it's pointed out to me, it strikes me as logical. That thinking, well, maybe we only need 345 ships instead of 355, and all of these individual places where we could go, well, how can we make do with what we have or with less than what we think we need, seems tremendously logical. How does that manifest itself in actual budgeting and in actual acquisition?
Well, I'll tell you a good example of how we fall into this trap of not thinking on the margins is, policymakers will be looking at a program and they'll say, "Wow, we've spent billions of dollars working on this. We don't want to throw away all of that investment by canceling it now." Or another example will be that, hey, if we just build more of this item, the unit cost will come down. And that's true. Unit cost will come down. But in the first case, what we're doing is we're falling into the sunk cost fallacy, right? The fact that you've spent a lot of money on it so far doesn't really factor, it shouldn't factor into your decision of, is it worth spending the money that's, left to finish it? You should always look at something and say, okay, how much money is required to finish this? And is the capability, the benefit that we get from it worth that extra money that's required, right? It doesn't matter if you spent billions of dollars already, because you can't get that back one way or the other.
Yeah.
And in terms of buying more items to bring down the unit cost, well, yeah, the unit cost will go down if you buy more, but do you need those extra units? Even if they are cheaper, are they adding value that's commensurate with their cost? That's the question we should be asking.
So the potential critique on your idea is that I hear those ideas propagated more in Congress than I do out of the building. And this goes back to the classic debate that you and I have discussed ad nauseum over the years, Todd, which is the building can say it wants something and it doesn't get much choice if Congress says it gets something else.
Yeah, and that's where, we hope to help bridge that divide as CSIS, to bring folks together, to help them, on both sides, both in the executive branch and in Congress, help think about these issues, in a more logical, strategic manner, and understand, like, okay, what are our real choices, and what are we trading between, right? And how should we value these things? How should we evaluate them? And often, a lot of times, disagreements between DOD and Congress, it boils down to they're using different data and they're using different analysis. And if they could just come together and agree on some of the baseline facts, they might be able to communicate better about what they value, what they view as risk, and what they're willing to spend.
Todd Harrison, thanks very much as always. Great to have you back.
Always good.